Welcome. In this video, I'm going to be sharing what is the principle of vibration in the 7 Hermetic Principles and how can you master this principle of vibration for your own spiritual wisdom. And I'm going to be sharing later in this video how you can harness the principle and master the principle of vibration so that you can manifest faster and actually fulfill your life's purpose. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name's Gabby, and here on this channel, I'm here to help you be the hero of your story. So in this video series, I'm diving into the philosophy of Hermes Trismegistus, which is essentially wrapped into one book known as the Kybalion. The Kybalion is essentially a summary of what is Hermeticism or Hermetic philosophy, which is all just the teachings of an ancient man known as Hermes Trismegistus. And so there are 7 Hermetic principles that if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you already know about, but I'm going to be deep diving into, specifically in this video, what the principle of vibration is. So in my last few videos, I did an overview of what the Kybalion is in the first place. And if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you go check that out to really understand what the purpose of the teachings of the Kybalion really are all about, instead of just using each principle and understanding them segmentedly. The interesting thing about the 7 Hermetic Principles is that each principle really builds on top of the other one. So if you haven't watched my videos about Principle 1 of the Principle of Mentalism and the video about the Principle of Correspondence, I highly recommend you go check those out first, because this principle, number 3, the Principle of Vibration, really builds on top of the wisdom that 1 and 2 teach. And I think it's interesting how 1 through 7, they really are properly ordered, because the ones that follow are always better understood or cannot be truly understood until you've embodied the wisdom of the principles that come before. So in this video, I'm talking about the principle of vibration, and assuming that you've watched the other videos, this principle of vibration is really starting to enter the arena of getting to use the ancient wisdom of Hermetic philosophy as a tool to amplify our creator power. Our creator power is this ability to manifest different things into this physical reality, because remember, manifestation is not necessarily all this selfish gain of like, I just want this thing, I just want this thing. Desire is the key for us it's this starting point for us to step into our purpose. Because if we didn't have desire, we would never have the motivation to overcome the obstacles that we face in our lives as this character, as this hero of our story. Desire leads us to stepping into our creator power. It leads us to taking action, going on this adventure of facing those obstacles, going over those hurdles, and truly, in the end, connecting back to our authentic selves and our authentic state of being, which is this pure vibrational, energetic state of the all that is mind that the Kybalion teaches. Hermes Trismegistus was said to be essentially the founder, or one of the first philosophers, if not the first philosopher, that was teaching things about psychology, alchemy, and astrology. And so a lot of these teachings are highly interplayed here. So when we look at each principle, I like to look at those 3 aspects, how those play out within the principle. And on top of that, the other interesting way that I like to look at the principles is from a state of spiritual knowledge. And I think there's a lot of people out there on the internet, articles, videos, who are teaching this spiritual knowledge of the Kybalion, of these Hermetic principles. And this is wonderful. This is like eye-opening and awakening to us. But at the same time, I like to share a little bit more of I suppose you could call it the alchemy, the direct application of ourselves on our personal growth journeys, because it's great to understand the spiritual knowledge. But if we're not integrating it as very mortal beings who have lives with difficulties and struggles and super menial problems in our life, how can we apply this very grandiose wisdom and apply it to ourselves in a very basic alchemy, really is what it is. So I'm going to be sharing at the end of this video a direct application of the 3 steps that I recommend that you take to be able to master and embody this. But first, I'm going to share what this is all about so that you can really comprehend this wisdom, because all I'm doing is wisdom is just knowledge that is applied to yourself through the lens of your own self-perception and really integrating that knowledge into yourself. And so I'm just taking the knowledge that already exists in the Kybalion, and this is my interpretation of the wisdom. So I ask you that when I share this knowledge, take this knowledge and integrate it through that alchemy, through that embodiment, and maybe even using the steps that I'm going to share at the end of this video so that you can turn this knowledge and not let it just stay as knowledge, but let it be turned into ancient wisdom. Now, as a super brief overview before I dive into this principle, number 3, principle of vibration. If you didn't watch my other videos about what the Kybalion is and what the 7 Hermetic principles are, think of these 7 Hermetic principles as essentially the fundamental laws of reality. These are not some things that Hermes Trismegistus, if he was a man, it's not that this person taught these things and all of a sudden, therefore, because he taught these things existed. These were simply observations of the fundamental nature of reality. It's simply the fabric and structure of the way that things work. And because of that, these Hermetic principles have been observed in a lot of other philosophies. Essentially, all religions and all philosophies were born out of the teachings of this Hermetic philosophy. And because of that, the law of attraction is one of the many things that came to be from these 7 Hermetic principles. And so every one of the 7 Hermetic principles, you'll notice, if you're in tune with that law, what the law of attraction is all about, you'll notice that the law of attraction is highly correlated, that all of these principles really ring true with what the law of attraction also teaches and encourages and really expresses to how to manifest things in this reality, how to attract things in this reality. And I think it's even more so true with the principle of vibration. So I want to share with you the basic excerpt from the Kybalion by the 3 initiates of what the basic gist of the principle of vibration is. And so the principle of vibration, stated in the Kybalion, is that nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. And to go a little bit further, the basic gist summary of that in the 3 initiates version of the Kybalion is that this principle embodies the truth that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. Facts which modern science endorses and with each new scientific discovery tends to verify. And I think if you're watching this video right now, in this day and age on YouTube, and you found this video, there is a good chance you already know that is quite literally this ancient knowledge that was discovered thousands of years ago is now, quite frankly, the facts of life, the facts of this 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional nature of reality. Quantum physics has no doubt about the fact that, everything is energy. And somehow this principle, that was shared by Hermes Trismegistus a long time ago in ancient Egypt, knew this intuitive truth before we had this modern science and quantum physics and studies and peer-reviewed articles to prove it to be so. And so it doesn't really matter necessarily the sense of you don't have to doubt that it's true. If anything, this is all about, the Kybalion teachings is not necessarily about looking towards this book as evidence to believe the nature of reality. It's asking you really to come into yourself and to encourage you to feel it for yourself. Because you could go find so many articles about quantum physics. You could read the amazing book The Field by Lynne McTaggart. You could read The Divine Matrix. You could read, probably even Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. Everyone's talking about how the nature of reality is an energetic existence. But I want you to hear this principle. And from the Hermetic standpoint, feel this in yourself. Feel this in your body. Because many people don't really acknowledge the Hermetic philosophy that came before many religions, even many other ancient religions and teachings, were also encompassing this truth. We have Vedic philosophy in the original yoga tradition and the Bhagavad Gita that was sharing this limb that is, or this fundamental understanding that prana is life force energy, and prana is this fabric of life and reality is this prana, and prana is not this thing, it's this energy. Life force is energy, and this was expressed through the simple word of prana. And on top of that, yoga philosophy also teaches that prana is flowing through you. And so yes, life force is energy, but you are also that life force. Life force is flowing through you. And the same thing resonates in ancient Eastern philosophy, like Chinese philosophy, which is chi. It's the same idea. Prana, vibration, energy, chi. We are energy. Everything is energy. It's not this thing over here. It's not something reserved for science. It's not something reserved for all the different sciences, for chemistry and all these different things. It's not just something we witness in those things. Everything that makes up reality is energy. And this principle really builds on top of the first principle, which is the principle of mentalism, which states that the all is mind and the universe is mental. Quite frankly, we can exchange the word of energy, vibration, frequency, and even love, mind, and all that is, was, never could be. There's this fabric and structure of life that is basic energy. And with that, there's a lot of potential here, because once you understand this, you have the secret. You have the secret code. You have the capacity to claim your power. You have the capacity to recognize that negative energy sometimes takes over you. You have the capacity to realize that there are energetic patterns that are playing out in the world, especially like when I'll talk about later. This has a correlation into astrology and numerology, in all these different ways that we can witness and notice. We can use energy to identify negative conflicts in our lives. We can use energy to attract positive things in our life. We can use energy to make sense of the world, to make sense of our purposes, to make sense of the greater scheme of how societies function, how economics function, how all of these things function. But the fact is, energy is everything. And everything is energy that is always in motion. And when you understand that everything is always in motion, there's two key things to understand here. Because everything is in motion, it teaches us to embrace change. It's one thing to accept that energy is everything, but to think that, okay, everything is energy, I don't have to do anything with that. And like, sure, okay, I'm just energy running through the world. But then something comes along in our life, something hard, some hardship, and we get angry. We get angry, or like we're upset. And then we have, quite frankly, when we get angry and upset and it's unconscious, then it becomes stored as trauma or unprocessed emotion in the body. Instead, when we accept that everything is energy and energy is always changing, that's where we learn equanimity. Equanimity is actually an acceptance for this energetic reality. Acceptance that things will come, things will move. Energy is constantly floating in this spectrum of high vibration and low vibration. And part of being a high vibrational being, and a high vibrational being who is living in your ultimate state of joy, happiness, fulfillment, and living up to your purpose, living in that high vibration actually requires embracing the change, embracing those negative vibrational states, even if it feels uncomfortable. There are so many different ways that this principle of vibration has in a way just been validated by so many different facets. One of my favorite things to notice about the principle of vibration is another person who has validated it in many ways is the teachings and the studies of Dr. David Hawkins. David Hawkins wrote an amazing book called The Map of Consciousness Explained. And this is really highly correlated with the entire teachings of the Kybalion, because he's coming from the standpoint that all is energy, but all that energy is consciousness. And so this very fabric that is energy is consciousness, which sounds very closely similar to the idea that this fabric is mind. The all is mind sounds very similar to this idea that the entire field of energy is a singular consciousness, and consciousness fragmented into different bodies that is all part of one greater mind. But in the teachings of David Hawkins, he talks about how he created a systemized version of the spectrum of energetic existence that we can each embody, and everything in this field, every small object, every small being in this world can embody a different emotional frequency. And you may know that every being on this earth has its own energetic field. You have your own heart space, you have your own field within your body that emanates from your heart center. And so every person, literally, their energetic field can literally be measured with devices nowadays. And the map of consciousness just takes this to another level of taking what the principle of vibration states, which is essentially that there's this principle of vibration basically states that everything is energy, and there's various dozens, if not hundreds of degrees of possible energetic expression of vibration. And the map of consciousness is a version of that we can use to look at if we want to get really into the details of like, okay, well, what is my vibration? What degree of vibration am I expressing myself at? Can I use the map of consciousness to self-assess and recognize where I'm getting stuck in my life? Because in the end, we're trying to use the Hermetic philosophy, the Hermetic wisdom to, in a way, ascend and enlighten ourselves. We're using it as a way to alchemize the darkest parts of ourselves so that we can step into our authentic selves and reconnect back to our love, light, and joy, which is fulfilling our purpose, which is the all that is mind fulfilling its purpose of having all these heroes on earth here to overcome these journeys, to go through these stories. And we go through these stories by looking into the darkest parts of ourselves and be willing to face our shadows, And I talked about this a lot in the last principle, the principle of correspondence. So the map of consciousness, I highly recommend that book if you haven't checked it out already. And honestly, if you want me, I was thinking about doing a video breakdown similar to this Kybalion breakdown about the map of consciousness. So let me know in the comments below if you'd be interested in seeing a video series of my breakdown of the map of consciousness explained by David Hawkins. And so in that, I'll actually put an infographic here about what the map of consciousness generally looks like. But basically there's this calibration level, and you can there's different life views, God views, or life views, emotions, and God views, I believe. And it's pretty easy to look at it and recognize what your view of life is, because there's words associated, and you can recognize what emotion that you generally feel most of the time. And from that place, now you have a starting point, a guiding point to recognize what you're striving towards next. And so that's kind of one of the other ways that we can bring in external knowledge to help us apply the wisdom of the Hermetic Principle of Vibration. One of my other favorite perspectives that also validates the principle of vibration. And remember, I'm not here to tell you, to try to convince you of the principle of vibration. Quite honestly, it's just the nature of reality. It's the fundamental building block that most of the world validates nowadays. But there's an amazing book by Lynne McTaggart, which I've mentioned already, called The Field, in which she takes this whole scientific realm of quantum physics and really dives deep into the spiritual impact of now knowing for a fact that the fabric and structure of reality is energy and vibration. And there's a great quote from it that I wanted to share that I think just simply, it's a beautiful way to explain the energetic reality, the energetic world. And so the quote is, "A field is a region of influence where a force will influence objects at a distance with nothing in between." Sciencey, I know, but we and our universe live in a quantum sea of light. Scientists have found that the real currency of the universe is an exchange of energy. Life radiates light even when we have grown in the dark. Creation takes place amidst a background sea of energy, which metaphysics might call force and scientists might call the field, officially known as the 0-point field. There is no empty space. Even the darkest empty space is actually a cauldron of energies. Matter is simply concentration of this energy. Particles are just little knots of energy. All life is energy, light, interacting. The universe is self-regenerating and eternal, constantly refreshing itself and in touch with every other part of itself instantaneously. Everything in it is giving, exchanging, and interacting with energy coming in and out of existence at every level. I think that is a really beautiful way to explain that the fundamental reality that we live in. Now, what does this help us with? What does this help us with other than knowing this wisdom and really validating that, yes, okay, energy is everything, but why does this matter to us? Why does this matter in our growth journeys? The principle of vibration helps us, like I shared with this map of consciousness a moment ago. The principle of vibration helps us to recognize that we are energetic beings. And we have two choices at any point in time. We can let energy control us, or we can control our energy. And you'll never be a hero of your story. You will always be the victim until you realize that you have to claim your energy. Now, how do you actually claim your energy though? Energy is this constantly moving thing. It's changing. It's something I thought it was supposed to be equanimous, right? I said just a moment ago that you need to embrace equanimity of let things come, let things go, and not to hold on so tightly. Yes, that's part of your energetic being, to not hold on to your anger so tightly, but at the same time, we also have to claim our energy. Because instead what happens is that we let energy rule us. Now, the thing that we talk about a lot here at Be the Hero Academy is that we talk about trauma healing and inner child healing a lot. In other terms, we can call this your childhood wound, your childhood programming, or your subconscious mind. When you come into this earth as a soul, you have this energetic vibration. And this is influence, this energetic vibration, this energetic imprint onto your soul is influenced by the day you were born. It's influenced by your astrology. And the principle of vibration and the principle of correspondence both perpetuate this idea. They both validate this idea that your astrology and your numerology impact you. Because of the fact that in the last video in the principle of correspondence, I explained the wisdom of the principle of correspondence, which is that as above, so below. Well, the planets are above. They are each embodying a different energetic field, and as above, whatever that field imprints, so below. You at the time of birth is going to reflect the energetic state of space in a singular moment. That's one example of the principle of correspondence, but it's the nature of reality, and therefore that explains how astrology can influence us. Well, the same thing goes with numerology. Numerology, and the thing about the principle of vibration that is very interesting is I like to think of the principle of vibration as the code of life. Because energy is the code of life. Principle of vibration is just explaining to us that we have this code. This code, just like when you have a computer, the operating system of that computer, you might just see it as an operating system that looks beautiful on a MacBook Air. And it looks pretty and has these modules and these apps. But on the back end, what actually builds that is this code. It's this building block language. Energy is that building block language. And so the same way that the operating system of a computer is the output, code is the input that creates the output. Same thing goes for energy. And I'm going to go even further to say that it's not just energy goes in and human beings as we are come out. There's another layer to that. Our alphabet, our language, our words, our numbers, our alphabet, and our words are all different versions of the output. And the output then influences us as this secondary output. And so, for example, sure, the astrology is as above, so below. It's this input that corresponds to create this output that reflects as above, so below. But the same thing goes with the principle of vibration in numerology, which is that number is just this construct that we've created. It's this output version of the code that is associated with each number. The association we have with the number is the output, but there is a fundamental code on the other side of that has a certain texture, a certain flavor of energy. And that is why the number, which is just the output, it's our interpretation of that energy, can influence who we are as people. It's why our names can influence who we are as people, because the alphabet, just like those numbers, is just this intermediary interpretation of the output of the fundamental building block. Vibration is just this subcode of existence. It's the code of our existence. And because of that, leading into my point I started with initially, we come into this world as these incarnations in these physical bodies that house our true energetic being, our true authentic selves, which is just a fragment of the greater mind, the all that is mind. And we have this energetic imprint. And I believe this is why, people make the argument that, is it nurture or is it nature when it comes to dealing with the psychology of a human being, dealing with the psychology of children and adults, etc. Is it nurture or is it nature? Well, it's both. And arguably, it's your nature more than your nurture, because you could say that the nature, which is this energetic imprint that has been stamped onto you with your numerology, your astrology, but you do have this genetic expression that you were given to you by your parents. But your genes in your body, they had a bunch of different possible expressions that could have expressed themselves. I believe it's something that every gene in your body has the possibility of 200 different possible proteins that could be expressed, every single gene. And so therefore you have thousands of possible people that you could have become expressed as, even though you had the genetics of your parents. And in an interview on the Know Thyself podcast, Dr. Zach Bush made the argument that your astrology influences the expression of how your genes express themselves. And so let's just take this and go further. Let's say you have this person, but then your astrology, even though you could have been a couple different people, your astrology in a way chooses who you are. And it chooses who you are, it influences who you are, because then you still have a life. You have a life where you go through this childhood programming. And childhood programming is something we talk about a lot on our channel, which is basically the idea that everything that happens to you between 0 to 14 becomes established in your mind as truths, as beliefs. These things that you hear and are surrounded by through your parents, your peers, your teachers, whoever it is, all these direct experiences that happen to you become the reality that you see your life through. And then what happens between 0 to 14, it's the operating system for your own personal computer. This computer, this being, is the hardware of your computer, and this software comes from the experiences that you have. However, is it predisposed based on your astrology and numerology? Probably. But either way, you still end up with this belief system, this cage of what you believe is true about the world that keeps you trapped. And it keeps you trapped because the more you think and feel a certain way, the more likely you are to continue to think and feel that way. And so if you're exposed to a life where you're taught to say, like, I'm not lovable, money is hard to come by, I have to struggle, life is not something I get to enjoy. If you experience anything like that, and there's so many variations of the different beliefs you could have as a child between 0 to 14. But if you think that way, you're more likely to think and feel that way. Now here's where the principle of vibration comes in. Your thoughts are energy. Like I just shared for the first half of this video, everything is energy. And literally, a thought is neurochemical triggers, electrical signals in your brain conducted together to create a thought, which is sparks of energy. But the thing is, for every single thought that you have, which is energy, it's also going to send a signal to a different endocrine gland in your body, to a different region of your body, through another electrical signal down the vagus nerve. And it's going to signal more energy in different regions of your body, and that is why your chakras are so important. The way you think signals a different chakra in your body. Chakras are energetic hubs. It all comes together, guys. Everything is saying the same thing. Science, spirituality, the Kybalion, it all comes back to the same thing. So that thought, that energy sends signals to the different energy hubs in your body. And if you process that energy, if you let the energy be expressed, you have a healthy chakra. You have a healthy energetic existence. You are vibrating. You don't resist the energy that is always changing, as stated in the principle of vibration. But if you resist energy, if you resist emotion, because emotion is energy in motion, if you resist energy and resist vibration, you don't feel emotions, that energy just gets locked and stored in each and every one of your chakras. This is what creates your childhood wounds. This is what trauma is. Trauma is that stored energy that stays stuck in there for a long, long, long time. And the longer it stays in there, the less likely you are to have a functioning chakra that's able to turn back on again, that's able to start feeling again, that's able to start expressing energy again. And what happens is basically that, as the principle of vibration states and as the map of consciousness states, vibrational states vary between low and high. There's a myriad of different possible expressions of that energy. And when you don't process emotions, and when you're addicted to the same thought-feeling cycle, you become you become more matter and less energy. You're not this high vibrational being because you've stopped the energy from flowing. You're not letting the vibrations happen. You've stopped it because we see pain and conflict and hurt. It's hard to experience those versions of energy, those thought emotion patterns. And so that's why it's so important to, when you understand the principle of vibration, here's where it's key. When we understand this energetic process that's happening to ourselves, now we have the capacity to go, oh, okay, I get it now. I actually really do need to change my thoughts. I have to step in and claim my energy. And claiming your energy is quite simply just starting by feeling and thinking differently. And you think and feel differently by consciously placing your intention on a new energetic state. A new energetic state is a new thought. What do you want to think and feel in your new reality? The principle of vibration gives us really the starting point for what is, in the end, everything that we teach you here at Be the Hero Academy and here on our channel. We're here to help you be the hero of your story so that you can step into your most meaningful and happy life, which is a life that for everyone looks like having vibrant health, great relationships, and purposeful work. But it starts by acknowledging that you are a being of vibration interacting in a world of vibration. Stepping into the law of attraction is the secondary effect. It's kind of all the same. We want to shift our energetic being so that we can attract the things we want in our life. We're not looking at it from the standpoint that, oh, I want the law of attraction. I want to do the law of attraction. I want to create all these things in our life. But you can't actually step into the law of attraction without just simply stepping into the principle of vibration. Owning your vibration, alchemizing your trapped, because that's what the Kybalion and Hermes Trismegistus was really just trying to teach, to alchemize the energy that's stuck, the shadows that are stuck inside your chakras. And if you embrace the idea that you are vibration, perhaps maybe you would let those emotions, even the hard ones, the negative ones, the sucky ones, the ones from 10 years ago, the ones from a past life that for some reason feel stored in you, even though you can't quite put a memory on them, through the principle of vibration, maybe you can allow them to run through you more. The principle of vibration gives us the capacity to step into the full power of our creator selves. Helps us to be the hero of our story. But just because this principle of vibration is a non-action oriented principle of reality doesn't mean it does not require a great deal of action to embrace for ourselves. So how do we master the principle of vibration to step into our purpose, to embody a greater sense of inner joy and inner peace, and to find a sense of spiritual wisdom in our incarnations on earth? So I have 3 steps I want to share with you guys. The first one that you have to start with to really embrace this principle of vibration is to start by going inward. And this resonates with the step that I shared with you in the last video about the principle of correspondence. Because the thing is, in the principle of correspondence, I shared with you how you cannot expand outward until you can only expand outward for as deeply as you go within, because it's a mirror effect. The more we go into ourselves, as we go within, is for as the amount that we will go outwards. And you have to think of it from an energetic state, an intentional state. If we draw our attention inward into those shadows that we don't want to face, then for as deeply as we go within, we will go without, and we will expand, and we will grow, and we will receive, because we're expanding outward in an energetic selflessness to some degree. Well, the same thing goes in a slightly different variation with the principle of vibration. Like I just shared, your thought emotion cycle is keeping you stuck in a low vibrational state. Your thought emotional addiction, and remember that your addiction, you have an addiction to negativity, you have an addiction to stress because of a primal hardwiring in your brain. And it's not your fault, it's just your primal hardwiring, but it's your choice. And you have to step in and change it if you want to change. No one's going to change it for you. Your addiction is keeping you stuck in this shadow self, this shadow of negativity, of trauma, of childhood wounds. And like I just shared, it's being stored in different chakra points in your bodies. It's your responsibility to embrace this principle of vibration and figure out what emotion, what energy code is being stored in my brain or in my body. And it's probably both, because for every memory that we have stored that we don't want to allow and release, it's also being stored in our body somewhere. They're a linked pair, that certain memories, and whether or not you have a visual association with those memories, is being stored in your body too. And so if you don't know where to start with going inward, I recommend that you start by checking in with your chakras. We have so many videos about signs of your chakras being blocked on our channel. And that's a good starting point if you don't know where in your body or what emotional frequency you're not allowing to come out. Your body will manifest it because each chakra rules an endocrine gland, and the region of that body, it will literally send signals, and you will have ailments in your body and physical distress in your body where you're storing emotion. And those emotions will have a certain flavor, a certain texture, depending on how what memory is associated with that negative emotion. So your step 1 to embrace the principle of vibration is to go inward and identify what you haven't released. what low vibrational energy is holding you back, or what is holding you back from your natural state of high vibration. Because quite frankly, your natural state of being is love, light, and joy, is the all that is mind, is pure vibration. But all these three-dimensional reality experiences of our childhood hold us back, and they get us stuck in these big T traumas, these little T traumas. They influence our natural state of being. So tune in, journal, do really using all the modalities that we share on our channel, and more specifically the modalities that we support you with directly inside our group coaching membership, Be the Hero Academy, is exactly designed to offer the support and the nurturance you need to hold the space, to be able to dive into those negative things, to learn how to even find those negative emotions that are being stored in the first place. If you don't know anything about Be the Hero Academy, it's our group coaching membership site where we do live group coaching, and we have tons of resources, guided meditations, breath work, mini courses that you can go through. It's a monthly membership. You can learn more about it at bethehero.academy, no .com, just .academy. You can learn more about it. The second step to embodying the principle of vibration is to use the clues that were given to you. Sometimes going inward and trying to identify our energetic weaknesses can be challenging. It's absolutely necessary to have that mindfulness to go inward and try to figure out what's happening and what has been stored subconsciously, because 95% of what goes on in our minds is subconscious, and trying to go into that subconscious and recognize what is happening there, what did happen there that created all these negative memories, can be challenging. So sometimes it's extremely beneficial. This is why we use astrology. Astrology creates this energetic imprint, but we can also use it as a tool, because we can read it. We can understand the influence that this energy has had on us, and perhaps the things that we're holding on to are things that we were in a way karmically destined for, just based on the location of the energetic imprint of the solar system at the time of birth. And so we can use our astrology in so many different ways. And it starts by simply looking at your natal chart, pulling your natal chart, and starting to look at each aspect of yourself and realizing, because a lot of times for people, the first time they look at their astrology, they go, oh my gosh, this is because of that. This isn't just, we often think of ourselves as so flawed. We see ourselves as flawed human beings, that we're not good enough in some way. And I think astrology, especially looking at our natal charts, helps us to have a lot of self-compassion and in a way see ourselves as just special and different in some way. And that's not necessarily all a bad thing. But we can use that. We can't just look at it and say, oh, this is great, I'm special, and I can victimize myself because this is just the way I am. We have to use astrology as a tool. And so that's why I think it's so amazing that Isabel here at Be the Hero Academy shares so many astrology videos to help you deeply understand your energetic imprint. She dives into what each aspect is on your natal chart, so you can understand what your moon sign means, what your north node means, what your Lilith means. These are some crucial components of your energetic imprint that indicate to you what your shame is going to be in this lifetime. What is your overused aspect of yourself? What is your path to growth that is going to be hard for you to embrace? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses depending on your moon sign? Isabel dives into it so deeply, and your astrology, and then we haven't even dived into your numerology yet. Numerology yet is another layer of this, where we can literally just look at the roadmap of ourselves to some degree. Of course, there's memories, but there's this roadmap to who we are that we can look at, and we can go, okay, this is my strength. And we can tune in with ourselves and go, yeah, I do have that. It's not just made up. And we can use that to say, okay, this is my strength. I need to change my vibrational state. So how can I use this strength to step into a higher vibrational state? And on the other hand, we can say, okay, this is my weakness. Can I notice places in my life where this weakness comes in and tries to lower my vibration and keeps me stuck in the same life I've lived day after day, in that same thought addiction cycle that keeps me in a low vibration? Now, the last step, and certainly not the least important, is to take these things, to do this mindfulness, to identify who you are, to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and identify your path to growth. But the most important part in all of this is the same as what I started this video with. You stepping into your highest vibrational self, your path to purpose, your path to your highest self, has to start from desire. Because why else would we go through the work of facing these struggles, these hardships, overcoming these hurdles, these obstacles that feel so difficult? Desire is your key. You have to start with desire, otherwise you will never go through the work. So how do we shift from going out from this place of awareness, noticing ourselves, using our astrology to not victimize ourselves, but to understand ourselves, and then we look at our shadows, we look at our traumas that are holding us back. We need motivation to transmute, to alchemize. And this is why we believe scripting is so important. Scripting is about where you get super, super, super clear about the new reality you want to be living in. It's about where you take desire and get super, super clear with the universe about what is that desire. Because you can't just say, I want to be happier to the universe. Sure, it might be great for you to consciously try to focus your intention on the word happy. Will certainly start to make you happier. But at some point in your life, you'll wake up and you'll say, I'm still living the same life. And that's not what we want. That's not you fulfilling the highest expression of who you were born to be, being the hero of your story. Being the hero of your story requires a call to adventure, and that call to adventure has to start with a desire. But now we have to get to the point where we're getting clear on our desires, scripting the specifics of what we want in our reality. Scripting is essentially where you write out your future. You script it. It's like a play. Scripting a theatrical play. Another way to think of it is to write your journal entries for the future that you'll be living in. So I like to script and write as if I was doing gratitude journaling for a day that I've already lived. So if I were right now and I was being grateful for my day, I'd be like, I'm so happy and grateful that I got to do what I love, making YouTube videos for an audience, sharing what I love about Hermetic philosophy. I would say I'm so grateful. Well, you have to script as if the day you want has already happened. Now, if this feels like an overwhelming task, this is exactly what we teach you guys how to do and support you guys in doing inside Be the Hero Academy. We have workshops and workbooks teaching you how to script, and then we have live group coaching calls where you can ask questions, where we're engaging as a community, helping you to really get clear on those desires, because sometimes it takes a little bit of verbal and emotional interaction with lots of people around you. So in Be the Hero Academy, that's what we help you with. But for now, start by starting with your desire, and then ask yourself, what then? A lot of times it's easy to say, okay, well, I want better health. I want a better relationship. What then? What then in that reality? What specifics do you want in your relationship? Are you in a relationship now? Do you want to be married? Do you want to be, have a better friend? What relationships are you talking about here? What kind of conversations do you want to be having with those people? You want a different job? Well, what kind of job do you want? Do you want to be working remotely? Do you want to be working in a desk? What are the specifics of this? So these are the 3 steps to mastering the principle of vibration. And remember, you can't ever master the nature of reality. This is about us embodying our ancient wisdom to fulfill our hero's journey and really just love the lives that we live. Because when we love the lives that we live, that is the all that is mind expressing itself. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit the like button. This helps this video be seen by more people. If you think this is something that more people should watch, you hit the like button, because then more people will see it. If you have any thoughts about this video, if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below. This is kind of something I'm a little bit, this style of video is a little bit new to me. I've been doing a little more informational ones in the past, and this is a little bit more philosophical, which I enjoy. Let me know if you like this, and I'll be producing more like this. And if there's something you didn't like about what I said, or if there was something I missed about the principle of vibration that you want to share, let me know in the comments down below. If you don't already, be sure to subscribe to Be the Hero channel, because we talk about how to be the hero of your story, which is really about you living your best life. We dive into philosophies, we dive into astrology, we dive into personal development, healing your inner child, and healing your trauma so that you can live your best life. Thank you guys for joining me in this video. I'll see you guys next time in video number 4. Namaste.